So I'm Snaps, and I'm going to be leading our discussion here today. We're going to be talking about social media burnout. This is going to be kind of covered on a broad scale. If you want to talk about anything specific to content creation, we can certainly get into that as well. But otherwise, we're just going to be talking about social media in general, and we're going to be talking about burnout. A lot of us have experienced it, a lot of us hope to not experience it, and we want to make sure that we're promoting some healthy lifestyles in this new online world we live in. So I'm going to go ahead and just let everyone else introduce themselves by asking them to tell us a little bit about themselves and let us know, friends, why you wanted to be on this panel talking about burnout. We'll start with you.
Hi. I'm JSniperton. Just go by Jay. Been streaming for almost 4 years now, and social media and mental health are very similar. Like, there's like a connection there, right? And I see a lot of people within like the really small communities, Destiny, our community, and then it like grows out to Twitch and Twitter and YouTube and all that stuff, and it's very similar. And I see how it affects people's mindsets. And somebody can have a good day because they read something on Twitter or see something on Twitch or YouTube or whatever it is. They can also have a bad day because of something they read. Something that somebody else is doing is affecting the lives of a lot of folks, creators, people that aren't creators, you know, literally everybody. And I see that, and I feel like it needs to change. So, you know, this panel, there's a lot of very intelligent, very kind people up here with a lot of good information, and being up here is pretty cool to share. So.
Yeah. My name is Chris. I'm known as SupDaily on the internet. I've been full-time content creation for 10 years now, and yeah, you know me. What's up? Because I've been doing this for so long, I understand, especially doing it as your only job, the pressure that's involved with it. And I've had a few breakdowns over the years, and I learned how to deal with that, and now I'm excited to pass that stuff on to you guys.
My name is Jen. I go by XGumpita on the internet. And when Snaps asked me if I wanted to be a part of the panel, I was all for it. I've actually studied a few years of psychology in college, so it's definitely a topic that I feel relates a lot to social media and how we act on the internet, why people act a certain way on the internet, why people say certain things. So I'm definitely looking forward to having a good discussion with you guys, all these awesome people.
Hi, my name is Khan, or YungKhan. I'm a full-time graphic designer, streamer, and part-time philosopher. I'm a big student of philosophy. Martial artist for 25 years, going on 25 years now. I know all about pressure. I work a very rough and tough schedule. I sit behind my desk for 8 to 10 hours a day, but I work out at least 12 hours a week. So the amount of pressure and stress that can be held up by social media can literally break your month, week, year, all about just not navigating, being unable to navigate the outside forces that affect us. And hopefully I can pass a little bit of my philosophy on to everybody. I mean, I'll do my best.
I am Hunter Wild. I've been a content creator on Twitch for 6 years, but I've been in self-driven creative careers for the better part of 12 years now. So this, for me, very directly in terms of career burnout is profound and powerful. I'm currently in the midst of a burnout within a burnout. I burned out 2 months ago and then started trying to change and adapt within a hiatus, and it burned out within the hiatus. It's so strange how this works. So I'm deeply invested in the general sense of burnout, but also more specifically how my engagement with social media has changed dramatically my sense of self-value and self-worth during this particular time, and it has shaped a lot of my perspectives. My awareness is really intense, and I'm really keen on it right now. So I'm excited to share the hard-won lessons from being in the trenches of burnout.
Fantastic. Everyone say hi to all of these lovely people we have up here.
Hello.
Everyone here is so interactive. I really love it. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about what burnout actually means. So what does burnout feel like to you? How do you notice it when it first starts to show its face for you? And then what do you do to counteract it? Anyone who'd like to step in and share something?
I mean, I feel like one of the biggest signs of burnout is the feeling of need to do something and the lack of desire to do something colliding. You know, like, I don't want to post anything today, but if I don't post anything, no one will love me anymore. And it's not logical, but I feel like anyone who does social media for any point in time goes through those feelings.
It is so relatable. I have the thing that came to me was that it feels like career depression. There's no way out. Nothing I do makes a significant difference. When will happiness appear? Satisfaction, all of those factors in terms of the career. But I also find that to be pretty concomitant with a sense of social media burnout, where no matter what you post, no matter how much interaction you get, you still feel lonely. You still feel like you're not getting what you need. There's still a sense of despair underlying it. You're still always driving for something that affirms self-worth and not getting it.
The despair part, especially,
Yeah.
I think a lot of us can relate to for sure. Gump Khan, do you have anything you'd like to share on that?
Oh, well, I haven't exactly experienced burnout yet, and I probably put in 70 hours a week of just streaming, creation. When I encounter those problems, everything I do, I pivot. So however you encounter your problems, it's all about not running directly into them. Everything needs to be moved to the side. Just whenever you encounter a situation or something you feel like is not right, you got to change the angle you look at it. Because if you put this piece out there, I make an incredible amount of art every week, and I put this piece out, I'm like, this is amazing, it's gonna be great, and I get 4 likes. You're like, well, you put a sketch out, I did it in 30 seconds, it gets 120 likes. I don't let the number of likes determine my worth. It doesn't really, the likes don't equate value to me.
Yeah, I think to understanding that, there are so many things that go into why something doesn't perform well that doesn't even necessarily have to do with the quality of your content. The algorithm doesn't like you that day. The subscription boxes aren't working that day. That doesn't mean you shouldn't evolve what you're doing, but your value should come from within yourself, not from external sources. Because if you love yourself and are solid on your own, then any of the external validation is just icing on the cake instead of the actual cake. I want cake now.
Same.
For me, burnout can have take different forms. I've experienced burnout in the past 4 years of streaming multiple times, some much greater than others. Honestly, what shows me, when I know that I'm going through burnout, I know it because I love streaming. I love playing video games. I love talking to people. I love being on Twitter. I love interacting. And when I no longer feel like it's something that I enjoy doing, and it feels more like, oh, why am I doing this? Oh, great, I have to start up stream. I gotta do my hair, put my freaking makeup on. It just becomes like a chore. You no longer enjoy going on Twitch. You no longer enjoy being on any social media, but you feel like you have to do it. I think that for me is how I know that I'm being burnt out. And another thing is that I will notice that I'll take that out on my friends. I'll take it out on my family. I'll take it out on people, and they will tell me hey, are you okay? You seem a little on edge. Something's a little bit different about you, and maybe you can relate with that, where you'll receive feedback from people, and they'll be like, I don't know, is something going on? And that's when you can really reflect and say, you know what? I think I'm kind of reaching the edge. Too much social media, too much. I'm doing too much at once. There's too much on my plate, and yeah, that's how I feel like burnout is.
I can totally relate to that as well. I know I've been streaming. You've been around about the same amount of time, right?
Yeah.
We're all around 4 years. For me, initially, and this isn't just about, of course, streaming, this is social media too, but initially, when I started doing this 4 years ago, I was like, I have to go, go, go. I have to be on all the time. And it doesn't help when your audience is like, oh, live streaming is a thing now. Like you can stream from your kitchen when you're cooking. You can stream while you're driving. Don't do that. Like there's so many different things that people are encouraging you to share more and more of yourself. And it can be very enticing. But I started getting burnt out, I think it took almost 3 years before I started taking 1 day off. And now I take weekends off, and I tell my content creator friends that, and they're like, oh my God, I would love to have that off, but oftentimes it's not prioritized. So what do you do, Jay? What are your signs?
I think there's a lot of signs, and kind of going off what Gump was saying, you know, when it starts to get to the emotional side, and then tracking metrics is really easy to do because we have all those tools, and starting to get really personal with that, and like associating your worth with those metrics, it starts to bring you down, but then you have to remember why you're doing it, right? For me, it's to be creative, to be like just a goofball, like to kind of let the creative juices come out. And when you're getting into that slog where it just feels you're doing it day in, day out, you're looking on social media, you're trying to post stuff just to be relevant, you're getting away from the real purpose of why you're doing it. And I've seen, I mean, there's a show on Netflix that talks about the creative brain and how we're more fulfilled as human beings when we're being creative. And so for what I try to do when I feel that kind of like burnout, like I feel drained and I feel like nothing's really doing anything, like what else can I do? How can I like be creative? What can I add? What can I do some kind of unique thing on Twitter just to like get the creative juices out, like to have that feeling? And usually it has to be something unique, something I haven't done before, to really kind of get outside the box,
So
to
mix
focus
it up.
on the work. Yeah.
I like it.
I think I encounter that all the time. I just try new things every day.
That's good.
Yeah.
Variety is the spice of life. It's a little harder to get burnt out when you're mixing it up a little, right?
Yeah.
So
And your
nothing I do looks the same from day to day. I just like, let's do charcoals. Let's do painting.
There you go.
Because if you like, I make emotes for a living, basically. I made
I
like
know you
over
made some of
3,000. But after you make emotes for so long, I mean, I made 3,000 in 2 years. It can get taxing. Like, let's sit down and do 10 emotes. And like, well, I can do 5, and then I'll take a break and I'll draw. You know, I'll draw anything. Whatever comes to mind, I'll do it from a different angle. But I can sit there and literally draw 10 hours a day, but by taking small breaks to just do something that's in my head. And it might be like something like I'll throw away in 2 seconds, or it might be something that turns into a piece that's on my table. You know, if you like do the exact same thing and get in the routine and get super comfortable with what you're doing, you're going to get you might not feel like you're getting yourself bored, but you're even though people still love the thing you do, if you don't stretch your arms and your wings and your muscles to like, you know, try new things, eventually it's going to catch up with you. Like if you do the same kind of streaming all the time and not step out and try something different, it's going to eat you alive.
Yeah.
I hear it a lot where people, they do the same thing over and over again, not because they enjoy it, but because if they branch out, that people will leave them. I think that's a lot of the pressure, and I used to do the same thing. And I found that my audience was slowly leaving because I wasn't having fun. Who wants to
Yes.
watch a sad person stream? Some people,
Yes.
maybe, not me. And I didn't enjoy being sad. And so when I started to switch stuff up and do stuff that made me happy, it made my audience happy, and they all came back, and then some. So don't let your audience dictate your content. You dictate your content. You want to tailor it so that they'll enjoy it, but ultimately, like, if you're not having fun, they're not having fun watching you.
I think in terms of repetition, something that is also an indicator, one that I have become abundantly aware of in my own life, one is watching your metrics. On the career side of things, I think not just looking at them, but watching them like a hawk.
Yeah.
Is looking for validation in the wrong place. But in terms of repetition, here's what I do on social media. Here's what I do on Twitter. Thumb on, drag it down, refresh to see who's validating the statement that I made 10 hours ago. Who's giving me a retweet, who's commenting, who's liking or favoriting the message that I posted. It's going like, who likes me? Who thinks I am worth paying attention to? Who's validating my existence over and over and over and over again? I think that is a clear sign of social media burnout.
That is so, I'd like to ask everyone here right now, because this isn't just a content creator thing, right? This is social media usage in general. Raise your hand if you've ever done that. You've posted something and then you went back to your phone and refreshed, and yeah, I should do this too. So I think what we can summarize from this first question and discussion here is take breaks, big ones, small ones, whatever works for you. Make sure that you're still enjoying what you're doing. Don't seek that external validation. Post what you love. And really, like, whether you're trying to create content or just post stuff and have fun online, know that if you're burnt out and you're exhausted, what you're putting out isn't a very good representation of you. Absolutely. And that's what I learned when I started taking weekends off. My streams are better now. I fully believe that. I feel happier, more confident, I feel relaxed, I actually sleep, which is super important. So take some breaks, make sure that you don't get too lost in all of the validation, for sure, because that will drag you down so fast.
It's that oxygen mask idea. You know, they say put your mask on first before assisting others. And a lot of empathetic people are like, well, I want to help everyone else, but maybe in that process of helping someone else, you no longer have oxygen. Mm-hmm. Now you can't help them, you can't help yourself. Whereas if you had taken that time to make sure you're okay, then you can help as many people as you want.
Yes, absolutely. Just consider your energy moving forward. You only have so much of it, right? And you want to be using it effectively and with your full self present. So keeping this in mind, of course, how can we better protect ourselves and others, especially young children, when they're getting online from getting burnt out or getting too caught up in it? And I'd really like to start with Jay on this one. As a parent especially, I think having that in mind, how can I make sure that my children are being raised in an area or in a space where they don't feel like they need to be online all the time? So I'll let you start off with it.
This is a tough one. I had talked to her about how important this is to me. I have a 3-year-old. He's just now starting to get into, well, not just starting. He's been, you know, he likes to watch YouTube videos, and it's really simple stuff like Blippi, if anybody knows who that is, and like literally truck videos and stuff like that. But if I leave it on, he will literally just sit there and watch. You know, he'll ask to watch something different and things like that. But at this stage, it's the same thing as like social media. Like if it's in front of you, you're gonna want to use it. This is like for kids, for adults, all that kind of stuff, because it's easy, it's quick, it's very informational. And just as we try to set limits for him on YouTube or whatever it is, it's having to set limits for kids that are older, that are more mature, you know. There's a lot of tools out there to limit the use, and it's really difficult because, like, well, I don't want to cut my kid off from the world and all this stuff, and I understand the stress of that. And we were talking, it was you talking about, was it your nephew?
Yes.
Who like had to take a break and
started feeling like a different person, kind of like himself again, apparently. After like a week of being away from social media, kind of because he was in trouble, his parents noticed a definite change in his demeanor. And this is like across the board, young kids, teens, adults, like all of us. There is a point where it's a little too much, and it's going to start to impact how you are with people.
Yeah, I think it's about boundaries, and it's about core values. You know, if you show someone that their value is beyond those likes, like where they can invest in themselves, that they feel less of a need for that outside validation. And also setting that boundaries, like you're gonna set a boundary for your kid for lots of things in their life. I mean, especially young people, like they need those boundaries from people who are knowledgeable, from people with experience. And I know it sucks at times to do that, but ultimately, like, you're benefiting them in the long run. So like knowing who you are and setting boundaries, I think that's healthy for any relationship with anything that you have in life.
I think that the problem with young kids in general is, especially in this online world, it's the same thing from you know, being a kid myself, except when the internet wasn't as prevalent. It's the FOMO, you the fear of missing out. You feel like you're not relevant and invisible. So in an online world where you're trying to be visible all the time and post all the time and have Instagram all the time, I'm having breakfast, I'm having lunch, I'm doing this, I'm playing Fortnite. You know, I just got 30 kills, and you post, you know, 38 times in a day. That can be very, very taxing mentally. Yeah. So the FOMO is just, it's like FOMO on crack now.
Let them miss you.
Yeah. It's okay if it can be. I mean, as I guess as a content creator and a business person, I post. I don't know. I don't count. I don't even look at the metrics. I don't take the time to like. I look at the comments to see who like what's the comment. What am I bringing to the table? What am I taking away? Because I look at social media as a two-way street. I'm trying to like put something out there. If it's something small and somebody like they gain knowledge from that, or they gain like a little bit of like stability, that's great. But I don't look at it as a way is this funnel is coming towards me, or this likes are going to make me like 10 feet taller. It's not. So you got to let children know in general that because you get 5,000 likes from a post doesn't make you a good person.
Yes.
I mean,
can you say that one more time, please?
oh, if
Louder.
kids, if you get 5,000 likes, a day, and you have 48,000 followers, you're not a better person for it.
You are speaking to me.
And I'm somebody that went from 500 follows on Twitter to like 6,000 or something like that. I'm still the same person. That the follow. I guess because I'm like reaching 40 now. It's like the follows are like, hey, I'm glad you follow me. Like I follow you on Twitter. I'm like, that's great. I follow you on Twitch. I'm like, that's amazing. But I'm the same person I was at 20 followers. I am at 10,000 followers. So don't let the likes and the follows try to like, because we put too much value into it, and the value doesn't translate to the real world.
Yes.
It can't.
That's the truth.
I mean, if I could get 10,000 likes and become more enlightened, I would be like, oh, but yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that.
It doesn't work like that,
Is
though.
there a Black Mirror episode like that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's brutal.
Black Mirror frightens me.
Yeah,
It's so close.
It's so true.
Yeah. Gump, I'm interested to hear your perspective on this because you have a very family-friendly channel as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like you probably have a young audience in there at times. Is this something that comes up a lot?
Definitely. I feel like I have gotten messages in the past from parents or family members saying, I like that you have a family-friendly stream. Whenever my kid is not doing anything, not in school, they'll like watch your stream, and I'm like, oh, I guess that's pretty cool. And in the back of my head, I think, okay, like, are they watching along with them? Are they monitoring, how long they're on social media? Are they, what else are they watching, Because the internet can be a very, very daunting place, especially for a child. You never know. You click one link, you're in one website. You literally click another link, you're in a completely different part of the internet. And, YouTube, you might put on some cartoons for them, and before you know it, they're watching some other stuff that they shouldn't be watching on. They're down some rabbit holes on YouTube, if you guys know what I'm talking about.
As an adult, I've experienced that, and I was definitely freaked out.
The internet is something else. But I definitely think that everything in moderation is great. It doesn't matter like what age you are. There is definitely, like you were saying, there is a balance to everything. You have to find a balance between, watching Twitch, between watching YouTube, being on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be. You definitely shouldn't lose sight of what's happening outside in the real world, outside of that little monitor that you're watching things from. There's definitely a lot going on. So
the key word there, I would say, for this question of trying to prepare ourselves and kids to be online without being overwhelmed by it is balance. There has to be a balance. I think we all know we need to go outside sometimes and do some other things.
It's scary out there.
So we are somewhat limited for time today. So right now what I'm going to do as we continue on with a few questions is ask if anyone here has any questions that they would like to ask this lovely team of broadcasters. Please stand and line up behind the microphone right there. And we'll get to your questions in just a moment. So go ahead and start lining up behind it, and we'll start calling on you shortly. But in the meantime, I do want to ask all of you a question that I think we should be discussing more, and that is, how do you, if you choose to, respond to negativity online?
I try not to. There's always that urge to just like strike back, but I find that if you give yourself a little bit of time, your desire greatly decreases. We just have like a quick reaction. And a lot of people get burnt out on social media because they talk about how negative it is, but you are ultimately in control of your own timeline for the most part. So if you respond to negativity, you will receive negativity. If you follow negative people, you will receive negativity. But if you put out positive messages and uplift the positive messages that come your way, that is the environment that you will create for yourself. Don't forget, you have a choice. You don't have to follow. You don't have to respond. I always give myself, if it doesn't matter in 5 minutes, why respond, you know? So I give myself, I count to 10. It sounds silly. Breathe, count to 10. And all of a sudden, that person just vanishes from relevancy in my life. Because a lot of the times, the person who's trying to make you feel bad is because they feel bad about themselves. So piling on top of that is just contributing to even more negativity in the space.
Hunter, I'd like to hear from you on this because we talked about that a little bit briefly as well. You utilize the drafts function, right?
Drafts on Twitter are my best friend because I will see. So I have a degree in philosophy. I really like to speak back and engage in dialogue, and oftentimes that's challenging people, but that does not promote the feed and engagement ultimately on the internet that I would like to see. And I will write something up either for myself that I'm meaning to publish fresh or in response to somebody else. And I started a while back to catch myself and go, what am I gonna get from this? You know what, let me put it on pause. I'm gonna put it in a draft. 9 times out of 10, I don't even remember that I had done this. The conversation was irrelevant. Everything that, not that it was relevant to everybody, but to me in my life today, the thing that matters to me in the moment is not a relevant part of it anymore. And I allowed myself to put it off to the side. And if it is important and it's still bugging me as I'm trying to go to sleep, I have it in the draft. I can go pull it up and see and assess my own message. And 9 times out of 10, that thing is something that has to get changed. And I'm like, okay, I'm a little chilled out, and I can restructure it in a way that does not feel like it has to damage the world for me to speak.
If I can make a suggestion, though, put it in your notes. Because my phone was unlocked in my pocket one time, and I sent out one of my drafts, and thankfully it wasn't anything bad. But like, imagine if some of that stuff went out. Take it off of social media and then put it on when you're ready.
Okay, that's a good additional tip then.
For me, a lot of the times, and he's talking about philosophy, I have a passion for psychology. Like, why do people think or say things that they're saying? So for me, a lot of the time, I try to have empathy first. Why is this person posting this? What could their day look like that would make them feel this way? And that takes a lot of the sting, the personal, sting that you have when somebody's either targeting you or targeting somebody you know. It's very targeted, it feels personal, but when you start to have empathy for that person, which is like the hardest thing in the world to do, to have empathy for other people, then you start to relax a little bit and you're like, okay, maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe we'll come back to it later. Maybe it's just not relevant. But at the same time, there's different levels, right, of negativity. Sometimes there's people just having a bad day. Sometimes there's people who, if you look at their feed, it's just days and weeks and months of just going through and just trying to, they're having bad days, having bad weeks, having bad months, but if that's in front of you all the time, it starts to affect you. So I literally will just mute or block them at that point. If it's just really, really toxic.
I do definitely think that the mute button, block button is your best friend sometimes on the internet. You don't have to put up with somebody harassing you or making you feel uncomfortable. It doesn't matter what social media site it is. Definitely, I would say to utilize those resources on Twitch. Block people, ignore people. On Twitter, mute people. If you don't want to necessarily block them, you can just mute them so you don't see their things anymore.
And mutes are temporary. You can unmute them after they're done. Sometimes I need a week to just throw things out on Twitter. And somebody can mute me if they don't want to see that. And then that time has passed and I'm still relevant to them in some way. They can unmute me.
Definitely.
I have a much simpler approach. Negativity, first of all, when I do get negative reaction, which rarely happens, you'd have to care about me and I have to care about you for your opinion to affect me.
Yes.
So It's the street. If the street's not open, I don't know you, and I don't care about you, don't care about me, then how can your opinions affect me? Now, if I love you and you have a negative opinion of me, we can still talk about it because I know I love you and you love me. But if it's just negativity coming in the street, I don't know you, it can affect me. The door's not open to even walk through.
You know, that's interesting because we were talking about this earlier, and this is a tweet that a lot of people saw. It was, don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't seek out advice from. And I think that's like a great add-on to that. Like a lot of us, we feel like we have to engage, but we really don't. And the mute button is a lifesaver. If you aren't muting, mute.
You'll be much happier in the end.
Definitely.
Did you have another thing to add to that? Or?
No, I want you to remind me of that later. I want to focus on this, but I want to write that down.
Got it. Can someone tweet that at Chris real quick?
Please.
At SupDaily?
SupDaily, yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take some questions. So if you'd like to step up and ask a question.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Mark from Phoenix, Arizona. And I feel like there's a lot of ways to kind of pose this question, but I would say, would you say like the idea of the social media burnout applies to people who generally use social media as like a space of creativity versus when they tend to use it more as a marketing tool?
Yes. For me personally, I'll jump in there right away. Absolutely. If you're online and you're interacting with so many people and you're being vulnerable, especially as a creative, right? You're putting stuff out there, of course, it's totally likely that you could get burnt out. And it's interesting because Gump and I were just talking about that too. Like, we have to limit our own usage. And there are some times where you feel that pull so strong that it reminds you that phones can be addictive. They're designed that way. So if you have a moment where, like you were talking about earlier, where you post something and you find yourself constantly refreshing and looking for that validation, it might be a sign that it's time to take a break. And if you find yourself getting frustrated that you're not getting enough out of it, or if you put your phone down and without having an actual desire to do something specific, you grab it and start scrolling or checking stuff, that might be another sign that it's time to take a little break. Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, marketing is not as emotional as you sharing your creativity. Yeah. So usually when you're feeling emotional, ultimately, Twitter, Instagram, it's all a tool. You know, and the way that you use it is up to the individual. So it's usually the individual feeling something or having a disconnect from something that they need to address outside of social media. And if you're getting burnt out, generally you aren't being authentic to yourself, and yourself is telling you that, and you should just listen.
I liked how many of you referenced kind of the core values too. It's very important, and we talked about this in the mental health talk earlier too, it's very important to know who you are and what your goals are. What are you trying to do? Does whatever action you're about to take support that or not?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
I guess as a creator and a marketer, I mean, I've become a brand over time, which is
it's weird.
It's a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
As a creative, I make art, but I don't make art for I make art for people primarily, but I make art for myself. And what I put out, it can be 4 lines, a happy face, and that's it. And I make that because I laughed on the inside. I put it out there, and that's a marketing tool. People are like, oh man, that was so cute. I want to do something like that in the future. Like, oh, that's great. That's a marketing tool. But when you start looking at those things and you don't get the feedback you want, trust me, it's getting the feedback. I didn't get the feedback for a very long time. And sometimes social media is being burnt out because you start putting stuff out there, but you're talking to a void, and nothing comes back. You get burnt out on just hearing nothing.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not get a negative reaction. It's be like, well, I put this piece out, I put 10 hours in, I got 1 like, and you start to doubt yourself. You get burnt out on just trying to impress.
Yeah.
Still create. I don't create for likes. I create just to create. So you move from the core, as Snap said, and you'll always be happy, no matter if it's 1 like or 1,000 likes.
And just to add to that, before we move on to the next question, I think as a team of content creators and actual creatives up here, we have all posted things or had streams with no one there. That's just where you start, So you do have to keep that in mind, that initially you're kind of yelling out hoping that someone hears you, and that's okay. everyone has to start somewhere, but just, you know, manage that balance, remember your values, and do your best to put out something that feels representative of who you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Savannah. I've looked a little bit at social media from like an academic context, and I was wondering, you guys kind of touched on it a little bit already, but I was wondering if you had any thoughts about this, for lack of a better word, malicious way that some of these apps are designed. Like you talked about the having your thumb down to refresh as like, that's reminiscent of a slot machine, or like seeing the red notification bubble come up and you need to get rid of that, just as far as like an addicting thing, or any thoughts you have about that?
Turn off your notifications.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just turn them off. You don't need them. Because the app's job is to keep you on the app. And your job is to set the boundary for that app.
Yes. I watched a TED Talk on this that talked about how important it is for us to distance ourselves sometimes, because you're getting a dopamine hit every time that you do see that little notification. And one of the jokes that this woman had used is that the only two places where people are referred to as users are by drug dealers and technology companies.
Can someone tweet that to me as well?
So we do have to remember that these apps were designed for us to act in a certain way. So it's got to be a conscious choice for us to choose not to let them guide us. I think one of you mentioned that it is a tool, but it can be a tool that uses you, or it can be a tool that you use. It is. I'm glad that you asked that, because I don't think enough people understand that you are getting that dopamine hit right away.
She's just got so many like great little nuggets. I'm like,
Watch the stream back.
I know.
They should give me a panel, man.
True.
Any other thoughts on that, friends?
Yeah, it's like a gambling addiction.
Yes.
I mean, it's the same way any game is built.
Yeah.
It's you want to keep pulling the arm on that slot machine, hoping for a big hit. That's why I don't gamble and I don't play the lottery, because
I love
it's
gambling.
a tumbling hole. Yeah.
I love gambling, but yeah, I got to take long breaks. I love playing poker, blackjack, all that stuff. But
I
I
love playing
just
poker.
like this.
When will we play, Jay?
The more I do it, the more like everything. I get mad at every little thing, and then as soon as I see that, I'm like, I gotta take a break. Like 6 months to a year, I'll just like, just won't even touch it.
Anybody here play Destiny?
Yeah.
Yeah. You run the Nightfall 48 times for that god roll. That's social media. It just takes a little bit less time.
Thank you.
I'm like, do you have
Thank
any
you.
follow-up questions on that? Okay.
It was a good
Come on
question.
up.
All right. Hello, my name's Jada. My question is, where do you guys think that people need to draw the line between being a creator or persona, or whatever they choose to label themselves as, versus their personal image on social media? And I ask this in a way of saying, you know, like putting your problems and things out there is good for social media, but putting a burden on your audience or your, you know, for things like that can be stressful and damaging for several people. So where do you guys think that line should kind of come to fall?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because we actually had a question similar to this on here, and because we got short on time, we had to kind of minimize it. So I think Hunter, you might be a good one to jump in on this. or not. Maybe I'll put you on the spot.
Well, the problem is that we don't have 8 hours. It's an extraordinary challenge. Social media has inherently changed the nature of communication and the social structure of our minds. And as such, I think there's no easy answer for where the line is drawn, or even how to try to draw the line, in large part because you're consistently necessarily aware of having to manage a message. That's not how you talk to friends, right? But a lot of the people who are out there that you're wishing to communicate with are your friends of varying degrees. But you can't determine who hears you. It's universal. Everybody who follows you, everybody who has access to your feed hears everything that you say. And when you're, as a creator, your identity is also your brand. That is a blend that is at the heart, I think, of the very essence of burnout, which is a millennial epidemic that we are just seeing as a start. And I have no idea how to address it, and frankly, it's an existential crisis for me.
Look at your social media like a bank account. Make sure that you're putting in just as much as you're taking out. So sometimes that social media is going to feed you, and sometimes you're going to feed it. And as long as you keep that balance relatively 50-50, I think it's healthy. You know, like if you're constantly just trying to take, then you're going to burn out your audience. And then just make sure that your relationship is reciprocal with the audience and yourself.
One of the things that we talked about earlier when we were discussing everything before this panel as well was, you know, all of us, I think, consider ourselves to be positive people, positive content creators, but there is this line that you have to walk of being positive versus being real and acknowledging that sometimes you have hard days, right? So what we kind of agreed in our discussion upstairs was bring people in. Don't just throw it at them. So if you're a content creator or if you're just online and you're having a hard day, instead of it just being a constant post of everything sucks, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, you could say something like, I'm having a hard day, how do you manage your days? I'm battling anxiety right now. What do you do when you're feeling anxious? So there's a difference between just throwing out everything that's bothering you and involving everyone in that discussion. And like Hunter was even saying, the line of like, I am me and I am a content creator, it's going to vary person to person. But whatever it is that you choose to put out, I do think it's important to remember that you're not just looking to talk at people. You want something back, right? You want a conversation. And people don't, I think, want to engage as much or don't have an easy way to engage if it's just, I'm having a terrible day, everything sucks. Like they're gonna respond with GIFs and memes and maybe that'll help. But if you were to ask for something, I'm having a rough day, what do you suggest? What do you do when you're having a rough day? Then that brings them in a different way. Sorry, are we interrupting you, Hollywood? Does that answer your question well, Jada?
Yeah, you know, it brings some light to it. I'm just kind of curious because, you know, as someone who's tried to step into that space, that was a struggle that I had.
Yeah.
My only other follow-up question real quick then is, you know, would you recommend having, say, a private Twitter account for your personal life and then having the brand account?
Have that private stuff in your private life.
Yeah.
You know, like if you, anyone that you're going to have on that private Twitter, for the most part, are probably people who are actually, you have in your phone.
Right.
So call them, FaceTime them, invite them over for coffee. Like make sure that that actual physical connection with the outside world is happening.
I would agree with that.
That's a great point.
You kind of have to consider why you want to put it on the internet in the first place.
Yes.
What you hiding?
And is it something where you're asking for help by putting it out there? You know, then you got to look. I don't think the internet is somewhere to put certain problems because those are things that we need like private help with. You know, whether it's friends, family, professional help. You know, sometimes we need that too. And I think having a private account for things that are like adventurous type things that you don't want to have on your brand is healthy, but like having it just be like just kind of a space to just kind of put all your personal feelings and negativity and all that stuff, that sounds like something to me where somebody's asking for like assistance and help and somebody to reach out to them.
My initial thought was just like we were talking about burnout and you're wanting to create more accounts. I'm struggling with the ones I have. So to me, what we were hearing up here is, you know, reach out to people. If you feel like you are having a hard time expressing a part of yourself with your online community, use your IRL community.
Yeah.
See what kind of resources you have in your friends and family.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Hi, I'm Chris. So a question I had, is going back into boundaries, right? Because something that I struggled with was boundaries. I did do remote work for a job, all within my bedroom. So a lot of stuff was combined in that one single bedroom, right? That's where I slept. That was my entertainment. That was where I primarily worked. And it did come to the point where it just consumed me, and all of everything that I did previously just turned into work. Right, so I did lose enjoyment in everything, right? Because that's where that room now is. It's just work. So my question is just any tips or any helpful advice that you would give for properly setting those boundaries so you know when work is done and when you can just enjoy your own life.
Do you do narration or
Yep,
something?
I was like, that's gotta be
can you
voiceover
read me a
work.
bedtime story or something?
I could try the Samuel Jackson version of
Yeah.
going to sleep omitted, but
Yeah.
I do a little narration for fun.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
do have something. You have to separate that from your workspace from your living space.
What do you do? Because like some people getting into this are younger. What if you have a studio apartment? Some people don't have the option.
They have like you can get those barriers and literally like the China, like the China, like changing things. You can like literally make a separate separation space that's specific for your work. Because I mean, there's been studies and studies and studies. Even something like a clock or an LED light or something in your bedroom when you're trying to sleep it just affects your anything. It literally could be anything. Yeah, I put my cell phone down.
Work hygiene, right?
The first year that I streamed, as I built my community, I literally had between my bed and my window, I didn't have enough room to move back. And I can tell you, it really affected my mental health because I was just constantly in that room. I get off and then I just roll over and go to bed. And now I have a separate space for it. And being able to like close the door in it or go somewhere else, I can tell you it's just like ultimately beneficial. So he was right. Find some sort of way to separate yourself. So it's like, this is what I do here. And when I'm done doing this here, I can walk away and have my regular life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like at the moment, that's how I'm working and living and sleeping. It's all in one room. So I've got literally like, if you see my cam, you see a nice little background, but right next to it is my bed. So literally, I'm 2 feet away from my my little haven where I rest and where I work and get really frustrated and feel burnt out. So sometimes I understand the mentality of like, you literally look at that table or that desk and that chair and that PC and the laptop and you're like, you remember how you feel when you're experiencing that burnout, when you oh, it's the internet is there, work is there, like I said earlier, it's kind of like a chore knowing that you have to be sitting there, and it honestly it took a lot for me to like finally be able to say like, okay, this is not healthy, like I need to get out of this room. So what I personally do is I know that when I'm done streaming, the moment I'm done, I'm off that PC. Like for my own mental health, I will, let's say if I do want to like hang out on like Discord or Twitter or whatever, I will leave my room and I'll go do that outside. Like go to a park, go to Starbucks and chill and like on the Wi-Fi and stuff, you know what I mean? So it's definitely important to have that separate space. If you're unable to, like, have some kind of wall or a different room or a different studio, do what you can to escape that and definitely like draw the line for yourself and say like, I need this for my mental health. Like as nice as it is to like, have your PC so nearby, it's not very healthy.
I know that we're almost, I gotta be tight on time. I highly recommend utilizing tools, researching tools that you can make use of. There's a way that you can set a timer where your PC will lock you out. And you have to type in your password to do it. Now, it's not like a hard lock, but it creates an awareness that you are past your bedtime, young man, right? That kind of thing. The other one on your phone or a mobile device is Forest. Forest is something that I've used to keep myself off of social media to prevent distraction. You plant a tree, you set a time, and you start the timer. If you tab out of that in any way, it kills the tree. Are you a tree murderer? I don't think so.
Don't be a tree murderer.
Utilize tools.
But if you had tuned into Snap's wonderful seminar on mental health earlier, she talked about the mental aspects of being out in nature as well. Leave your apartment, leave your house, go outside, and that could be your way to kind of reset your mind and also get that vitamin D and experience something else. It's just a change of scenery that you need. So go give that to yourself. I schedule
it's a gift.
Hikes. Like I live in Colorado, there's beautiful hikes everywhere. So I'm like, okay, today I'm going to this place. I'm going. And sometimes I have to force myself. But I know that when I come back, everything's going to benefit, including myself.
Yes. So in terms of boundaries, I think make sure that you have an overview of what you need to do how you need to do it, where you need to be to do it, and then do your best to plan around that. Like he's talking about planning to go for hikes, or GuardianCon goes out and she brings her phone with her and goes somewhere. You know what you have to do during your day, but if you're just coasting, that's all you're gonna do. But if you plan something out, if you create a routine, if you make a nice schedule, then boundaries are easier because you have guidelines. You know you work on certain things at certain times, you go and exercise at certain times, you go out and eat, you go outside, again, go outside. So I think having a nice overview can be really beneficial, and then like Hunter was saying, there are tools that can help you with your technology that will remind you to move if you get lost.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Can't wait to see your voiceover work or
Seriously.
hear it. All right, final question.
Hi, guys. First of all, thank you for doing this. I think just sitting here has been incredibly helpful, so thank you for putting this on. I know it's been a huge resource for me, at least so far, I'm sure, for a lot of other folks here.
Thank you for dressing up.
I was just going to say that.
You look so sharp.
Just for us.
Just for this family.
Just for you guys. Only for you guys.
Thank you.
So I actually want to, my question kind of stems from something Hunter said earlier. One of the paradoxes or kind of problems with social media is that the more connected you are, the more in tune with your social media you are. And I know this has had an effect on me and a lot of people that I know, the more isolated you feel at times. And this is actually a conversation that Snaps and I have had at times where people who make their living on the internet, who make their living through, a box that they look at, the people on the other end of that box that they talk to almost after a while start to seem maybe not real. So what are your tips for bringing yourself back to the real world, for getting away from the kind of made-up world on the internet and reasserting yourself in the real and reminding yourself that the person you are on the internet, the way in which you speak to people on the internet is not the way that you would speak to your friends, that to remind yourself that your human interaction is important in a kind of IRL face-to-face way?
I think you kind of said it. You said it like you talked about your real-life friends. Like I have friends in my life that like if I'm out in public and I get recognized, they'll be like, "Oh, Chris is so famous. Oh my god!" Like, and they'll keep me grounded. They're people. They're like, "What the heck is an emote? Like, I don't know what you're saying." Keeping those people in your life that will keep you grounded and call you out on your shit and keep you centered. Those are the most valuable relationships that you can have when you're doing this full time, because you do get kind of lost in the sauce a little bit. So then you have your people that are like, hey, stop being saucy, come back to real life.
And be saucy in real life.
And be saucy with me, but like a whole different type of sauce, like not the same sauce.
Yeah, I think that's really important, what he's saying. Like, have your core crew and don't forget them. And if you don't have that yet in your life, it's time to start branching out IRL a little bit more, because the online world is great and rewarding. Like, we're all here because of it, right? But there is also a big, beautiful world out there full of amazing people, and it feels good to be around them. And in terms of the benefits of your brain, it is good for you to be around people and talking to people. So please make sure that you do that. Get out, have some friends that help keep you grounded, and set some boundaries like we just talked about.
Speaking on that same thing, I been streaming for 4 years, and I did full-time for about 2, and that full-time was literally me just in my bedroom streaming. And it took 2 years for me to realize I'm not happy. Something here is wrong. Like, I was extremely lethargic. I didn't want to do anything. I had no energy, so I knew that I had to do something different. So maybe it'll work for you. Get a little part-time job if you're able to do it. If you want to go back to school, do that. Like, I went back to Starbucks. I was working as a barista when I started Twitch. I left it, and then I'm back at it because I knew that for my mental health, I needed human interaction. I needed people to talk to, and it's like, it's not taking away from my time with my, friends online. I'm making friends IRL, and I'm able to stream. So it's like, getting the best of everything.
I appreciate that. We have to wrap things up today, friends. So I really appreciate you all coming here. I would like if everyone could just real quick drop your Twitch or Twitter, however you want people to find you. You can find all of my stuff online at MindOfSnaps, and my Twitch streams are SheSnaps.
Everything for me is JSniperton on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Jay in life.
Yeah. I'm SupDaily, like, what's up, daily, on everything.
On Twitch, I am Gumpita, like Forrest Gump, and on Twitter and Instagram, I'm xGumpita.
I won't bother you with all the social media tags I do have. They're all on my website, conartist.org.
There you go.
Because I am so punny. So you can find me there. I like all my links. I'm not a rip-off artist, I promise. I'll take your money, I'll give you your product.
That works. You can find me at TheHunterWild almost everywhere except on Twitter where it's a TV at the end. I'm married to the TV tag for the time being.
Well, thank you all for being a part of this panel. It was really great getting to talk to you before we started and getting to talk to you here. I hope that if any of you have any additional questions and you feel that any of us can offer some valuable insight, that you'll reach out now that you know how to find us. But really, thank you for coming today. Thank you for asking questions, and have a lot of fun while you're here.